Hey, everybody. We'll wait and see if we get a few more people pop in here. So, I am trying something out a little bit new tonight. For those of you who've been sitting around and waiting, listening to music, I threw that together. So, that's kind of a, I'll probably do that 10 minutes before each Saturday. As we wait to get a few more people to pop in here, I promise tonight we're only going to go 1 hour because I have a place to be in a little bit with the wife. If you guys want to start commenting and throw over where you're from, that would be wonderful. So I know who is here. I'm attempting a new process with a live stream software. So all this fanciness going on in a week. So got to make sure it's working. So we will get started here. And then if you got questions, start popping them in the chat so I can start seeing them. Nobody's going to comment yet? I got 4 of you in here. Oh, hey, Pamela. How are you? We'll see here. At least this week I'm in my office, so I can have better sound. A lot better sound than the hotel room last week. So I think tonight, yeah, for probably about the first half hour or so, if you guys want to throw questions at me, I will answer questions. But then at the same time, I've got about 8 images that I recently taken, all mostly, probably in the last couple of weeks that I'll kind of discuss. And as we go through those, if you've got questions on them, let me know. Loved your living history pictures. Yes, thank you, Pamela. It was a good day. Hey, Connie. Alexa must have reminded you it was 8 o'clock. Hey, Peggy, that is awesome. Now we're getting some people popping in here, so commenting. I'm just curious if you want to throw in the comments. I don't know. I think I know what everybody uses for camera wise, but I'm kind of curious to see how many Canon versus Nikon users or Sony. Got to throw in Sony now. So I don't know how many of you people were waiting around in the beginning, but I had a little bit of music and funness, I guess. So I'm jumping into the world of live streaming. So, ooh, Canon. Well, I knew Pamela shoots Canon. What else? Anybody else want to throw it in there? I know what Connie shoots, but you can throw it in there, Connie. Or I should say uses to photograph. I think I talked about that last week. So 7 people hanging out here now. So any questions? Let's start rolling in the questions. Start throwing questions up there. No questions yet? Somebody's bound to have a question. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm actually running everything through my Zoom. Ah, yes, Connie. Oh, I didn't know you had a D500. I knew you had an 850 and I guess a 7200, but I didn't realize a D500. End of an era. Nikon and Canon are getting rid of their SLRs. So all going. Anybody shooting mirrorless? Anybody? Okay, good. Connie can hear. I think everything's slightly delayed on my end. So yeah. Don. Hey, Don. It's awesome to see you. Running on my Sony A200 from PhotoPro. Has anybody been out this week photographing anything lately? Like Pamela mentioned, if you haven't noticed on my page, I've been posting one photo every day at 7 p.m. So I think tonight's a pig. You should have smelled it. That was when I did a Living History Farms. So anybody got any photo questions that are popping up here yet? Nothing? I struggle with people to see my prints on Facebook and ask me if I have a business. Nope, I don't. Then they ask, well, can they have a print? I'm struggling with where I'm at with photography. Ooh, elaborate, I guess, Pamela, but that's a fine line to run. Um, it's a hard one, to be honest, because when you start selling things and then you start collecting sales tax and all that good stuff for the government. So I hear a lot of people, well, I don't know. If you want to take it as a business, it's not a bad thing. Um, nice side hustle, but the problem that we run into is I know a lot of photographers that are good photographers, but not good business people. And I know a lot of people that are really, really good business people, but not good photographers, unfortunately. But that's what makes them successful, is the business side. You know, ask if they can have a print. I would always sell a print, always. I don't like giving stuff away. You even if you're not doing it as a business, you're throwing time and effort into it. So, but if you want me to elaborate, Pamela, let me know. I can elaborate some more. Any other questions out there? Any? We're only 5 minutes into this. Got 55 minutes left. Well, at least a half hour of questions. Trying to think what else I can throw out here. Oh, so here, let's throw this out here. So I actually recently had somebody reach out. Just so you're aware, if you do go out to Living History Farms and photograph, you can't sell them. You can't sell the images. You can't do anything. They have a strict photo policy, personal work only. So it's probably a good thing to talk about. I know Bruce Moore here in Cedar Rapids is the same way. If you cannot, you have a camera, those ladies there can smell you out. I have been there a few times. So I guess if we're going to any places, especially it charges to get in, and even if you're just taking pictures, even on a Pamela, I haven't forgotten about the Lightroom class. I might throw that out here in a minute too. That's okay. When you get it, just shoot me a message. But you got to double check on places and their photo policies. So see what they say you can and cannot do. How do I handle backups? Well, I don't know if we want to go there, Connie. Do I back anything up? Knock on wood. I do. I don't back up everything. So right now, I run off a Mac Mini here in the office with my Samsung 36-inch monitors, my little Get to. I have all my photos are on backup hard drives. I do not back up all my images. Oh, Tyler, you cleaned your office a little bit. Yeah, it's been cleaner. The table back there is cleaner. There was crud all over it a little bit ago. Back to the important question of Connie and handling backups. I do back up a lot of my final work on external hard drives. So, like what I call final work is final photographs, meaning if I take 5,000 photos at Glacier per se, I don't back up all 5,000. It's not all 5,000 are worth backing up, but the ones that are final and edited, yes, I do back up Google Drive, places, external hard drives, things like that. So depending on how you want to do it, and you got to be organized about it too. Um, just can't dump them all in. So I work in folders. Some people go off years and events, and I'm really weird. Oh, Tyler, we got to get a better quality webcam. Actually, I thought about hooking up my little Nikon Z6, but I have to get a power adapter for it. I don't want to do that. It's too expensive. Too expensive. So, but yeah, backups, I mean, depends on how you want to do it. But in the world of backing up, you just need to make sure they're backed up somewhere. I'm grainy. Oh, that's weird. Um, I look perfectly clear, Tyler, on my end. But any other questions? I can keep elaborating, I guess, on backups. I don't think I've missed any questions. Oh, let's talk about Pamela. I reached out to Pamela recently. I'm thinking about, if you're interested, let me know in the comments, but I'm thinking about doing a Lightroom class, half-day workshop. I got to find a location, thinking around $100, but it would be lots of basic Lightroom. We could talk about how Lightroom works, how files are stored, into basic editings, the new masking features, things like that. Then going through, and I thought about a couple hours of basic introduction, and then probably an hour or so of questions pertaining to Lightroom that you have. And then if you want, you can actually, then what we'll do is you can throw me some of your images and say, I want to do this to it, but I don't know how, and then I can edit it. So if it's something you're interested in, let me know. I'd like to do a minimum of 5 people. So be here in Cedar Rapids. I'm thinking Scooters on the southwest side, but they have a nice room, but I have to reach out to them still. So if you are interested in a Lightroom workshop half day, let me know. If you don't comment here, just send me a message via Facebook. Any other questions out there in the world of photograph? Ooh, would you touch base on Photoshop? No. Depending on what you want to know on Photoshop. I called Connie today. She helped me with some masking stuff in Photoshop. I don't know Photoshop that well, so I'm not going to take your money and say I know Photoshop. There are more qualified people in the world of Photoshop than I am. Um, I'm kind of curious, Pamela. What would you be interested in Photoshop? F I can add borders and show you how to add a little stroke around your photos, but I will definitely, right, Connie, not teach masking at the point. I did get it to work finally. I will tell you, I had like 5 or 6 people trying to help me out throughout the afternoon with this masking thing, and I literally went upstairs, made a cup of coffee, and poof, I came back and it worked, and I did nothing different. So I don't know what happened, but it is what it is. That's why I don't like Photoshop. Photoshop, I feel like you have to do A plus B to get C. And if you do B before A, C don't work. Making a picture look like a watercolor. Ooh, I think that might just be, in theory, adding an adjustment layer. Don't take my word for that, but an adjustment layer of some sort and applying a filter. I don't know. I mean, you could go in and overlay some stuff, but that I couldn't do. I'd have to sit and fiddly dink with it. So, not my kind of thing. Why don't you do my portrait work? What are you talking about, Tyler? No clue what Tyler means by that. Any other questions out there that are not from my brother in the top of the what do you want to call it? Oh, why don't I do more portrait work? Oh, I don't know because I don't love it. I'm not passionate about it. I'll tell you that. Um, I do enjoy it. I might have some cool portraits coming up here soon. That's why I had to learn how to do some masking today. Hint, hint. But we've got lots of things. Oh, Steven says on your website you have pictures that look like time lapse or watercolors. How did you do it? So I'm assuming, Steven, you're talking about probably my ICM work, my intentional camera movement. So let's talk about that. So my kind of go-to on the intentional camera movement side. So what intentional camera movement is you're purposely making your photo blurry. So what I do is I prefer to work with a 70 to 200 2.8. I will set my aperture between f4 f8. I will set my ISO as low as I can go because we intentionally want to blur the photograph. So I like to work around a shutter speed roughly about a fourth of a second. It's a lot of playing. You got to be in manual. Well, I shouldn't say you have to be in manual. I find full manual exposure mode to work best because I can tweak aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and do all those. And all of it is from there is whipping the camera, moving the camera back and forth. Sometimes if I see the rolling hills, I'll move with the hills. Um, Depending on what I'm doing, if I want to go straight up and down, I got trees and I want to streak them. I start at the bottom and I whip. I go different. It's hard because you can get like 90% of it right, but you might have a little spot that's overexposed. And then you got to go and adjust your exposure, and then you find out, guess what? Yes, my ab. So thank you for posting that up there, Stephen. Yes. So yeah, the abstract landscape. So yes, that is my ICM work or my intentional camera movement. So that is all done in camera. That is no photoshopping, no Lightrooming, no adding a blur filter in Photoshop or anything. That is all done in camera. So it's something that I do a lot in the winter because it's just boring. There's nothing. When I first started doing intentional camera movement, for me, it was one of those things that was. I was doing it. I'd never seen it before, and unfortunately, I was wrong. A lot of people do it, but it's one of those things that's it's super cool because you don't get the same photo twice. Um, it's one of those things we can all go to, say, Glacier National Park. We can all take the same photo at Lake McDonald or wherever in the park, but with intentional camera movement, you cannot. No one's going to get the same picture as you. You're not even going to get it twice. So if you screw something up slightly, you got to go back, and it's a lot of playing. I like I said, I prefer to be at about a fourth of a second at 200 millimeters between f4 and f8, and then ISO usually in the basement as low as I can get it on the camera. And then from there, it's all just whipping and moving and just trying to find, that look you want. And then a lot of times if I do it when it's brighter out, I do have to use a neutral density filter so you can knock the light down. If not, you'll overexpose everything. Hopefully that answered your question. If not, let me know and I'll elaborate some more. So I got about 15 minutes more worth of questions, and then I'll pop into these 8 images. If you have questions about those, you can let me know. So if you kind of noticed, if you're in the waiting, I'll call it a waiting room, but it's pretty much a 10-minute video I made in Canva this afternoon. So each week when I go live, I'm going to actually go live 10 minutes before, just so everybody's aware, and you can listen and see the same thing. You'll notice it's called Late Night Exposures now and not Saturday Night Lives, because that sounds too much like the TV show. So I literally woke up literally at 2 a.m. I could not get to bed last night. I kept thinking, what am I going to call this thing? And I got all this stuff I want to do. So it is now called Saturday Night Exposures. Trying to go with that fun late night theme because we do it from 8 to 9 p.m. every Saturday. Pamela says, do you have a favorite paper you like to print on, or does it vary depending on the picture? Good question. Let me jump back real quick. So each week when I go live, there'll be a 10-minute wait before. So if you sit there, you just listen to the music, you'll see after about, I don't know, 8 or 9 minutes, it will count down from 10 to 1. You'll see my intro of my flippy pictures with my logo, and boom, then I'll be live. So just so you're aware, I saw a lot of people pop in and then pop out, and I was not clear on what that was going to happen. But favorite paper you like to print on? This is a perfect question, because over here to my right, which you can't see, is my Canon Pro 100. So I have a very, very fond love of Hahnemühle paper. If I remember right, they've been making paper in Germany since like 1600. I love it, but it's expensive. There's one called Fine Art Photo Rag, GSM, I think 308. GSM is your thickness of paper. It's a watercolor paper. I print a lot of my ICMs on it. Gives it that very fine art look. I've done some portraits on it. But it's expensive. It's super expensive. I think 8.5 by 11, 25 sheets is like 49 or $50. What I do now is I've recently switched testing some paper from, I think it's Red River, if I remember. And it's a lot cheaper. And I've printed, there's two types. There's one, I don't remember. There's one very similar to the photo rag from Hahnemühle. There's another one that I bought less of that I should have bought more of, because that's the one I love. It actually reminds me of a paper that I printed on in the darkroom. It's very thick fiber-based paper, almost like a shine. Don says, do you print all your own pictures or send them elsewhere? So it depends. I have a group of like 4 other photographers I meet with once a quarter. We pretty much have to print stuff when we take it, which is awesome. Keeps the printer from drying up with ink, but that stuff I do print. If I'm doing very, very small stuff for somebody, I will print it myself. Anything else done, I will send out to a lab up in, Waterloo, called McKenna. They do an awesome job. They don't do everything for me. If I want to print on acrylic or things like that, I go out to Bay Photo out in California. So I've got several labs I work with. It just really depends, but it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing large format stuff, it's actually funny because the most of the stuff I end up, I don't know, selling is with a project here in town. I don't print. They print it for me. So I just invoice them for prints, and they do the printing and I get to approve it. And it's super cool because I think I talked last week about it, where we have the 4 foot by 6 foot print. So we do a lot of that. Oh yeah, I drove up to McKenna and Waterloo. I did not know that she was on. Yes. So yeah, I love McKenna and Waterloo. I've had good luck with him for a long time. So any other questions on anything? But I do enjoy printing. It is a process. I'll tell you that. Lots of paper profiles and things matching up, and a little bit of error here and there. But once you get things figured out, I print straight from Lightroom to the Canon Pro 100, which I don't think is made anymore. But it's definitely not cheap. Well, in the long run, it's cheaper. I think Red River Paper had a paper calculator with my ink, and I think it ends up only for like 8.5 by 11 sheet. I think it's like 88 cents for me to print one photo off it, but my that's just ink cost. That's not minus the paper cost. So I would say less than $2 I can print an 8 by 10, which is cheaper than a lab. But also, if I add in my time and the occasional air and scraps, then it gets more expensive. But most of the time, I will send out to a lab. I don't want to print now. If I had the money and the space for like a 60-inch Epson printer, then definitely. But those inks are like 180 or $200 a piece, and they take like 6 or 7, and gets nuts. Pamela says, I think it would be great if McKenna gave a tour of their facility showing their printing process and everything they can do. I don't know what they're doing with COVID or anything, but I went up one time and said, hey, I need to see some stuff in person that I'm thinking about doing. And I actually got a lab tour. So, but McKenna's awesome. I've had good luck with them. It's once you find a lab that you can print with and you know how to print through them, it just makes it easier with color and everything. A lot of the pro labs have a little more crazy software, but it's not great to work with. But I think they got a newer one recently. But I haven't printed through them in a while. So, any other questions? No, nothing. Not at all. Anything? So hopefully everybody is enjoying the lives. I'm enjoying doing them, so I'll keep doing them as long as people keep showing up. So it's nice to just get out and talk about whatever and answer everyone's questions. Trying to think what else I have up my sleeve coming up. Well, I do have I should have an announcement. Oh, hey Amy, thoughts on high gloss versus acrylic? I'm up in the air. Ooh. I think it really depends on the photo, to be honest. I mean, and what your end, I will say, the in your end uses. I love metals personally, matte metal, metal that's on matte, or printed matte. I don't like super high glossy metals. I don't like glossy in general, to be honest, because it's too much shine. I don't know. I think it takes away. But I mean, acrylic is super cool. I don't like thick acrylic personally. I think when you get into those like half inch or more, if I can't remember the sizes like thickness wise, but I like the thinner. I think it gives that more saturated look, that more poppy color on the acrylic. A lot of the stuff that I've done for the hospital here in town, they do a lot of acrylic. So if you want me to go into that more, Amy, let me know. Or other products, I guess. Um, I don't know. I'm a fond lover of deckled edge fine art prints, where if you look at it, it's a fine art print, and then they tear the edges off. And then what I like is when you slap that into a float frame, so you got a little bit of it's floated off, and then you got that frame around it. I think is cool. I don't know. I like fine art stuff mostly. That's my favorite paper. If we go back to papers as anything fine art related, not gloss. I don't like gloss. I should say I don't like glossy behind glass either. Any other questions out there? No. Give it about, I don't know, 10 or so more minutes. I got 8 images we'll go through. And then if anybody has any ideas for next week, anything in particular want me to go over, let me know. But back to what I have up my sleeves. Yes, Jay says McKenna with 4 thumbs up. Exactly. I have no problems with them. Never had an issue. Stuff is super fast to ship, especially if you're in Iowa. And shipping is like only $2, if I remember right, up to a certain size. But I've never hit that. What do I want to say? That threshold of being like super. It's got to be huge for them to charge, I think, actual shipping rates. But I don't work there, so don't quote me on it. But I think you can request through them. Their customer service is awesome too. I actually screwed up one time and ordered a metal print with rounded corners and not square. And I emailed and like, oh yeah, no problem. They'll take care of it. Um, but if you have any other ideas for next week, but I do have an announcement hopefully coming up September 1st if I get around to it, because that's not that far off. But I'll have something kind of fun, another project I'm working on that will pop up, which will be educational for everybody. So, oh, Amy says it is just $2 as of today. Just ordered some test prints today to calibrate. It's more to drop ship to your customer. Yes, they do charge a drop ship to your customer. That is a good point. Working with your speed light next week. Oh boy. I could talk about Flash next week if we wanted. That might be interesting. You know what? I might do that. We could talk about Flash, difference between all these different flashes. I primarily work with off-camera flash, not on camera. You can do that with the speed light or not, but we'll save that for next week. But yes, so if you do drop ship with McKenna, yes, they do charge for that. But I will tell you, it's a nominal fee if I remember right. The other thing that's super cool is they were the only one. Well, I shouldn't. Super cool for me that I trust that I'm kind of like super. I've got to see it before I send it to a client, but they would be one that I would trust that if somebody needed it sooner than later, I could drop ship it without having to actually look at it. Oh, I'm not missing, I don't think, any other questions. Oh, I forgot I can do this fancy thing called show. And then boom, I could throw your guys' question right up on the screen and see who said it. So then I can hide it. All this fanciness going on here with this live stream software. So I like to do things good or well, I should say. Amy, I know, right? So that's what $20 a month gets you, Amy. You can live stream to whomever will be willing to listen. Any other questions out there? There's bound to be something. Come on, Jay. You don't have any questions? Nothing at all. Oh, I'm a high-tech redneck now. I know, right? See? And there we go. Voila, done. I can pop up your questions. I love that. That's great. I'm very easy to entertain sometimes with technology. So any other questions? Come on, somebody's got to have some questions. We got like a little over a half hour left before I go through images. So when I start throwing up images, hopefully you'll be able to see them here. And if you guys have questions on how I did it, what I saw, let me know. What possessed? Oh, hold on, Amy. There we are. Amy says, what possessed you to go to the state fair? I don't know. I just love the state fair, obviously. I don't know. Maybe it's the people. I really don't know. Other than I've been every year since last year. Well, 3 years. Since 2007. I've gone every year except 3 years. 1 year due to COVID. Last year I wasn't keen on with COVID. And then the year my daughter was born. But what I loved about the state fair is you can go over and over and over. I went twice this year. And I just like taking photos, to be honest. There's so much to see and do. And there's always, I go back every year, and there's something different that I didn't see the year before. And people watching, that's a good one. I love people watching. So, I don't know, state fair, I don't know, just in general. You never know. This year was great. I actually stood there for like probably 20 minutes and took a bunch of, if you saw the photo I posted of the two people walking in front of the big mural, that was kind of fun. Everybody's like taking selfies. I even took a selfie in front of it. So, any other questions? Come on, there's bound to be something. I'm just itching to pop up a question on the screen. Oh, did I go through the livestock buildings? I always go through the livestock buildings. I don't know. For some reason, though, I didn't find anything in there, to be honest, that I photographed. But I don't know. You never know what you're going to see. That's the thing. And that's a good tip is if you're out photographing, don't just assume like, oh, there's nothing there. Go and do it. What do you got to lose? Nothing. You have nothing to lose. And I think I walked 30,000 steps. That was crazy. Oh, and we got another question. Steven, priority modes versus auto mode. Any day of the week. I'm not going to say auto mode is wrong. If that's where you're starting out, that is totally fine. You've got to start out somewhere. That's where I started out. Not going to give you what you want 99.9% of the time. But I like priority modes because you can think of half of it. So let's say you're a Canon shooter. That's TV mode for shutter priority. Let me take a step back. You got P, A, S, and M. That's Nikon speak. Same with Sony speak. And then you have, let's see, let me think. I have to go back to my Photo Pro days. So we have P for program, and then you have AV, TV, and M. So manual is M in Canon. AV is, I think they call it's aperture priority, and then TV time value or uh, shutter speed priority. I like those because let's say sometimes like you don't. Well, let me take another step back. So with those priority modes, you do half, camera does half. That's what I love about it. So let's say you're only really truly worried about shutter speed. You could go into TV or S mode and you pick the shutter speed. Camera is going to try to give you a good exposure with the aperture. It's going to pick aperture for you. You're going to pick shutter speed. You can control ISO if you want, or you can leave it auto. We talked a little bit about auto ISO, but there's nothing wrong with priority modes. I'll tell you that right now because it's, I don't care how you get a photograph. I really don't. Some people say, well, you're not a photographer. You don't shoot manual mode. You're not this and you're not this. And I could care less. I don't sit there and when I judged the photos for Muscatine County, I didn't look there and be like, oh, I wondered if they shot manual. I don't care how you got it. You got it. Now there's things you have to use manual for. You know, if you want to trick, that's what I use is I want to trick the camera, you know, underexpose it so it's too dark or overexpose it so it's way too bright or whatever. You have a look you want, then you got to go to manual because if you go to AV and you're like, oh, if I stop my aperture down and go from f4 and letting all this light and I go to f22, it should get darker. No, because it's going to counteract with shutter speed. And I could go about 9,000 different scenarios. But if you get the photo you want, Stephen, out of a priority mode, roll with it. I have no qualms with it. Let's do two more questions, and then we'll get into some images. You guys, I guess, can start throwing up images. Sorry, I'll start throwing up 8 images one at a time and kind of explain my thought process. Excuse me. Gee, Christmases. You know what? Let's do that now. So hopefully somebody comment if you can see this because this is new. So I should. Ooh, can everybody see that image that just popped up? I will wait before I start rolling when somebody comments. I can see it. I'm actually viewing my live on my phone, so everybody should be able to see it. So this one I named No Oreos in This Kitchen. I don't name my photographs very often. So this was Living History Farms. For me, I literally wandered all day long. Wandered. That's what I did. And this was actually they break everything down. You've got the old town, and then you go out, ride the tractor. Yeah, ride the tractor all the way out to like the Indian huts, and then you go into the 1850s farm. And if you saw the photo I posted in Eye of the Pig, that was right before the 1850s or 1800s farm. And then you get into the 1900s farm. So this was in the house, like the pantry. They had eggs and everything. It was all set up. And I actually, when I got to this image, I actually started photographing it kind of high and to the left, like at an angle. And then I kind of just start. So what I do, oh, did you change the background color or was it that way? You could change the background color in Photoshop. You might be able to in Lightroom. That'd be a little tricky. But no, that's most, I will say 99.9999% of the time with my images, I do not change anything in the sense of color. So the wall was that color. So I will show up and I just kind of roll with what I see. And then I work the scene. What I call working the scene is a lot of people are like, oh, you took 1 or 2 photographs and you got this one and you're done. I actually don't. What I do is I will take pictures, all these different angles, different apertures, different everything, settings, too dark, too bright, and kind of work this, what I call the photographic process through my mind. That's how I see it and photograph it. But this was window light. Everything I did in Living History Farms is natural light. So this was actually on the right side of this image. the light was coming through this nice old windows of this 1900s house. So it was kind of a, it was fun. It was one of those things where if I get to a scene and I'm like, I was in the house and I was really looking, was really funny with this house inside. I was thinking like maybe I'll photograph rooms and kind of give this feeling of what this house is like. And I ended up photographing all what I call detail shots. So all this kind of fun stuff. So if you see in the top of that little scale, there's a little, I think there's an apple. There's an apple of some sort or something up there. So that was kind of fun, but it was super nice. It was like having a still life all set up for me. I didn't have to set anything up. So any other particular questions on this thing? No? I'm trying to think what else I could talk about it. So, but it's all natural light. Like I said, I don't get into it. I do basic when I go into Lightroom. I do basic exposure, highlight, shadows, white balance, cropping, things like that. So let me pop up the next one here. There we are. This one was super. Oh, f-stop. Oh boy. Let me think. On the last image, probably f4 because I was inside. So this one was super popular when I posted it, and I actually almost didn't post it. Um, it was one of those that. So this was one of those where I went into the 1850s town or whatever it is, and I actually was inside the barn. I went inside the barn there to photograph, and I was walking around, and I mean, it's empty. There's nothing in there. It was super, 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 super dark. And then there's actually like a fire escape, I think, or something for you to get outside the barn down through these steps. And it was like a no go. Well, I walked around and kind of looked down and I saw this scene, and I actually photographed it from high up for a while. And then I wasn't digging it. So I was like, well, you know what? I need to find something else to do. So I was like, I don't know. I wasn't loving it. So I actually was like, I'm going to walk down. So I actually went through the little door here and then came back up. Uh, oh, did I shoot any in black and white? I don't shoot in black and white. I shoot all in color. I try to see in black and white. That's really hard. And then what I do from there is I will go in and post process. So if I'm shooting raw, this brings up a good point, Don. If I'm shooting raw, I can change my camera to shoot black and white or monochrome, and it won't save that kind of setting. What I don't like about photographing in camera, let's say you shoot JPEG images which a lot of people do, is when you do that, you cannot go from black and white to color. So I will always do color and then convert to black and white. Oh yes, yeah. So I don't like to shoot anything. I always do it in color. Just because I can't. Sometimes what you think is a great idea at the time, it's not. I'll tell you why. You'll see a lot of my images. I shoot square now. I love square. I've always loved square. When I shot film, I loved Hasselblad medium format. Um, oh, this one invites you to visualize the story. Yes, it does. The one thing that's hard is with Living History Farms too. A little bit is you're in the 21st century here, but you got to go back a little ways. And I mean, there's still modern things there, but when I came in here, let me go back to square. So the reason I shot this in square was originally shot it in a ratio of 4:3. But what happened was right outside this frame, literally at the very top, somebody thought it was a great idea on this half barn door. So it's your standard barn door, bottom swings out, top swings out. They put one of those stupid push bars, like you would, I don't know, like fire exit push bar doors. Maybe it's because they have to have that because some rule law. I don't know, but I didn't want it in there, and if I shot the vertical and went 4:3 ratio, I was getting too much of the ground, and I didn't like it. So, and then I picked an aperture of let me see, let me think. Probably I think it was probably well it was f4 because it was my 24-70 Z lens on the Z6, and then when you zoom way out or zooming in, however you want to visualize that, you'll actually get when you use a telephoto, like focal length, it compresses everything. So I got a little bit more blur out of the background there, but it was super. At first I was just shooting the door of the barn. And then I was like, you know what? And then I started noticing, like, oh, you got the old house in the background. So to me, it just feels like you're there. You're not there. So Connie is totally right on visualizing a story. So any other last questions on this one? before I pop into the next. Not all of them are living history farms, so some of these are from other things this summer. I got some Glacier mixed in here too. So wait, there. Oh, this is living history farms. I love windows. To be honest. So the one thing that was in here was I'm really poor at this, and this has nothing to do with photography. But I'm very poor at playing along with things. So when I went in, this lady's like, "Oh, I'm just sitting in front of the fire, and I'm chilly." And I'm like, "Okay, lady, I really don't care." And then I realized she was acting. She was playing her part. She was sitting in front of the fire and eating. But I was more worked on this window. I was like, "Don't talk to me." Don says, "I love that one." So I don't know what I loved. What I noticed was when I walked in was the curtains and that nice light coming through. So everything all day long when I was at Living History Farms last week, I talked about the light and it being very soft. That's what I noticed here, and all that light coming through. And this one, I did have to do a fair amount of Lightroom. I had to go in and what we call burn and dodge. Well, I should say dodge, meaning you take away. So you're lightening up certain areas. People used to do it in the dark room. I do it in Lightroom now. But I had to get a little bit of more, had to bring the highlights down so I could get a little bit more detail in the window. Um, and then that nice little light coming through. But this was at the 1850s farm. So I don't know, there's something I loved. It's just the light and everything. And it's kind of like being there and looking out the window. So it was, it was fun. It was a different image, and she was like yakking my ear off the whole time while I'm trying to take this photograph. And um, I shot this in square. I do that a lot too. I will change my aspect ratio in camera. That's what I love, 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 love about the mirrorless is I can. Well, my D850 will do it too, but I can change the aspect ratio and actually see it through the viewfinder. Before, when I couldn't see anything through the viewfinder, minus the Nikon D850, I had to guess where this crop would be, and then have to try to visualize square and then get home and crop it in square. So I'm trying to visualize square in a 4:3 format. Oh, Pamela says, I also like the light bouncing off the windowsill. Yes, that was a challenge because as I was editing, I'd bring the highlights up in certain areas, and that windowsill there would blow out. There'd be no detail. So, but no, it's something different. I mean, I like windows. I am attracted to windows and doors. I don't know why. So, but any other last questions or comments on this one? No? If you have any technical questions on any of these, just throw them out of here. So, oh yes, I forgot about this one. This is one of probably my all-time favorites from Glacier. So this is Lake McDonald. We were so lucky to actually stay on Lake McDonald within the park for 2 nights. Super nice hotel, no internet, no TV, only had heat, no air. Plus, it was super chilly still in June. But so this is, I mean, I woke up every morning at like 5 a.m., ate breakfast, whatever, protein bars, all that good stuff. And then I could wait till like 5:30. I'd go out and photograph around the lake, and then I could get up, go get coffee at the little shop. It was like super great. So if you're ever there, definitely try to book a year ahead and get at the hotel there at Lake McDonald. But back to the image. So this thing was awesome. It's like tree roots, and this was in the evening, so you get a little bit of that color through the sunset there on the it's like tree roots, and literally this thing floats. It floats around. Like one day it was super close, and then other days it was a little farther off, so from shore. But this is literally inshore, next to shore, like like 6 feet away from me. So, but this is one where I shot more of the 16:9 ratio in the camera itself. So, but there's things within landscape photographies. You always want to have something kind of interesting in the foreground. Not that this picture would have been horrible with just the lake, but this makes it a lot more interesting. Gives you something within that middle third or front third, whatever you want to call it. But I got lucky too because the 2 days we were on that side of the park, every day was super cloudy, and this evening it just kind of opened up. So, um, But this was just like I said, it was one of my favorites. I think from the entire trip. Um, a lot of the other thing I should mention too is I do have a second. I do everything in Lightroom, but a lot of stuff I actually go to. Oh boy, why can't I think of it? DxOMark I think does it now. It's a software like Silver FX Pro, Color FX Pro. I do a little bit of that stuff after I get my basic edits done. But any other questions on this one? No? Okay. I'll start wrapping up here. Got 15 minutes. Oh, yes, this one. So this is how everything looked at Glacier the first couple days I was there. Super cloudy, super everything. There was nothing to do. I mean, literally. I mean, I was at first, it was like, the weather sucks. And I will tell you, the worst weather days make the best photographs. So don't ever turn around. It was raining and all that stuff. And it wasn't fun. So, but it's one of those things is don't just stop photographing. You can get some really, really cool stuff. But I think the first day I have like probably over 300 or 400 photographs of mountains and clouds. I do use dehaze a lot in Lightroom. If you have some haze or fog and you want a little bit more detail, but leave the fog, just take that little slider a little bit to the right on dehaze and it just clears things up. But this was something with the tree or the trees, too many Christmases, the clouds that you could literally photograph it and maybe I got the composition where I wanted it, but then the clouds covered up most of it. So you could literally wait like 2 or 3, 4 seconds and it changed and it completely changed. I probably, like I said, got 2, 3, 400 photographs of similar scenes and vertical and horizontal and all this different stuff. Pamela says, what do I use to protect your camera from outside elements? I keep forgetting I show your questions. To be honest, a trash bag. So I do. It was a trash bag. I actually used a poncho this day because I've never gotten. I always like I'm going to buy rain gear and I never get around. So you can buy rain gear. If I'm going to say if you're going to buy rain gear, get the stuff from Think Tank. It's expensive, but you get the eyepiece for your camera specifically. It goes around and everything kind of. What I like about Think Tanks is you can put your hands in it or at least get to your stuff. There's some other brands out there that are cheaper, more affordable, but the problem is you can't use it through the viewfinder. You can't see through it. So I used a poncho and I used a roll of gaffer's tape, which is a really super expensive tape you use in your studio and it doesn't leave sticky residue behind. So this day I just stretched made a hole smaller than my lens and I just wrapped around the lens hood and it worked. It was perfect. No, did I look like an idiot? Yeah, did it work? Yep. It was fine. So, but yes. So rain, snow, that kind of stuff that I should get some rain gear, but I usually don't photograph when it rains. So if I take rain gear, it doesn't rain. If I don't have it, it rains every time. So, but any other questions on any of that stuff? I'll get to image 6. I don't even remember which one. Yes. Back to Living History Farm. So back to Iowa. So I will tell you what drew me to this one right away was the light. Again, there's a window or a door or something on the right side, and the light was coming through and lighting things up. And Living History Farms was all about light that day. Everything was just perfect. It was like, and I like that little streak from top right hand down to the left hand corner, that little just streak of light. But it's kind of moody. I thought it was kind of fun. American flag with the whole baseball 4th of July theme. And if you do, Living History Farms does do I think a historic baseball game. I think every year, which is super cool. But I've never been out there for that. But it was kind of a fun. But again, I think for me, it was lighting. It was a little bit of the color with the flag, and then you got the word baseball in color, but it's just simple. I don't know. I seem to photograph a lot of simple things. Nothing too terribly complicated. We got 10 minutes left, so I'm going to start wrapping things up here. Oh yes, Lake McDonald again. These boats. This one I got about 50 or 60 photographs of this flipping thing. I've got it horizontally. I've got it square. I've got it. Connie says, not an idiot if you got the shot and still have the money in your pocket. Exactly. Um, some non-photographic things are great, but I do in all my camera bags. Well, I shouldn't say all my camera bags. The two that I do use, I do have a trash bag in it. Comes great for other things too. If I got muddy boots or something, I can throw it on the floor of the truck, which now I got rubber floor mats. But back to the wonderful photo. So this was Lake McDonald's. Diana says the one with the flag reminds me of a light painting. Oh, it kind of does. But this one with the boats, the super cool was each day when these were boat rentals, and when they're done, they put them up on the dock, and you're not allowed to walk out on the dock during business hours. It's like stop here, somebody comes and get you. So after everybody leaves, you can go out and walk on the dock. So, but this was kind of fun. What I loved about it was the boats, and every day I thought I just got lucky, and that they had the boats pointing everybody. Um, like the boats pointing the opposite. No, they do that every day. It's the same. This is the cheapest fun you can have at Glacier. It's like less than $20 or $20 an hour to rent a boat. And you go to one end of the lake and back in an hour. But this was what I did vertically. I felt like bringing everything in, kind of like a leading line thing to the boats. And the first one's a rowboat. I'm not going to row anything. Um, so we did the motorboats, but it was a lot of fun. I had some other shots where I shot this square. And the other thing I really liked about this image was those 3 boards that have been replaced that were slightly odd colors, like the odd duck out. So we'll jump to the last image here. Oh, yes, State Fair again. I forgot about this one. This one was super popular. Again, I mean, for me, it was the color and the lighting and the sky. This is where Lightroom came up. It was super awesome. D Haze brought out a little bit more detail in the sky. If you got a sky that's really flat, that you can see detail, but the camera's not capturing it, it's probably there. D Haze will bring it out. The other super cool thing is you can use the new masking in Lightroom where it'll select the sky for you or subject, and you can say select sky, but you want to lighten up the subject. Um, Connie, here's a question from Connie. It says, do you take both portrait and landscape views for most shots? No. I probably do more than I used to, but most of the time I don't. I just kind of, what do I want to say, forgetful. There are times that I should have done it in portrait and I did it in landscape and vice versa, but for the most part I do. I try to take both, so I have it. This one, this is a perfect example. So this was one that I shot in square. I shot it in 4:3 ratio, so it was more oblong. I did a vertical in my normal ratio, and so I got this one in about, I even think I did it like a panel, like a 6:9, so, or 16:9, excuse me, 16:9. So, but it's just one of those things is sometimes I don't know, for me it's like I know what the shot I'm looking for, so I shoot it the one way and then I'm done, which is a horrible thing because I will find out it's not what I want. So, well, we've hit an hour. Well, almost an hour. I got some time left. So, we got about, I don't know, 7 or 10 minutes left. So that's the last image I had. So hopefully you got something out of that. If you got more questions, let me know, because we got about 7 minutes left. So I don't want to keep everybody here all night like I did last week. But hey, people stayed around. So any other questions on anything, on how I do anything? I think maybe next week we will. We'll talk about a little bit about Flash and bring your photos back. And then the other awesome thing that would be great is if you're enjoying these, like I said, the more people show up, the more I'll keep doing them, and then share. I think these videos should post to my Facebook page. Thanks for sharing your photograph. Very inspirational. You are welcome. That's what I think. Well, that's a good question. Let me, one of my other wonderful photographer friends posted on, when I reminded everybody that there was a thing today. He's like, you just talk about why you do what you do. And that's as a photographer. And I think for me, I do it because, one, I enjoy it. Two, I enjoy showing the rest of the world how I see the world. Because a lot of people act like I was a flyover state. We don't do anything. We're kind of boring people. But for me, I think there's so much here in the Midwest. I would like another one of my photographer friends, Trent. I think one time him and I were having a conversation. He was like, I'd love to see somebody from the East or West Coast, big fancy photographer, come out here and make good images of the Midwest. That's the real challenge. I think that's what we all do. I think everybody I know that's on here tonight is at least taking pictures in the Midwest. So, but it is. I just do it to. I like to tell everybody I try to find the extraordinary in the ordinary. Um, and a lot of people say, "Hey, where's that picture?" And I was like, "Oh, it's this barn. It's located here." And they're like, "Well, I've driven past it a million times, never seen it." So that's what I do as a photographer. But as we're wrapping up here the last 5 minutes, so if you are enjoying it, that's awesome. Let me know. If you got ideas for other things, let me know things you want me to talk about, questions. You can always send your questions ahead of time if you're not going to be able to actually attend. But if you are enjoying it, please, it'd be awesome if you guys like share the videos afterwards with all your other photographer friends. And we had about 9 or 10 people on average tonight, so that was awesome. Not as many as last week, but that's a-okay. But it seems like it works for everybody, this 8 to 9 time frame. So any other last questions? Let's do 2 more questions. Somebody's bound to have 2 more questions for me. Even if it was on any of the photographs I did or something. So even something I've done, I don't know, past I posted. I'll probably remember it. Oh, you're welcome, Connie. I'm glad you enjoy it. And you probably noticed that everything's a slight delay for me. I'll probably be done talking about something before you see it. So no more questions. Nobody has any more questions. None. Come on. 2 more. We got time. We're at 8:56. No, nothing. Oh, come on. Somebody's bound to have one. One more question. I won't make it hard. We'll do one more. No? Well, that's fine. Well, if I don't, I'm not going to force anybody to do anything without questions, unless somebody's typing as we speak. But no, again, thank you guys for all attending again tonight. If you're looking for classes, workshops, any of that good stuff, let me know. I can always do that stuff for you. So we will end this live stream for this evening. I thank you again for attending. And the other awesome thing is be on the lookout. September 1st, I should have a sometime during the day, probably around 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. I'm going to post something that'll be super cool. I think you all enjoy. It'll be another project I'm working on, long term educational. So I look forward to seeing you guys all next Saturday. And if you have questions that you can't make, shoot them over to me through the Facebook page and we'll go from there. So awesome. Thank you guys very much. And we'll all see you next week.